Identity, sorry, start a little quickly there. Identity theft is a crime where an imposter obtains key pieces of personally identifiable information, like your social security or driver's license numbers, to impersonate someone else. Being a victim of identity theft can be a stressful and lengthy process to resolve. Greetings, I'm Michael Hinman, executive editor of Herald Community newspapers, and I'll be your host this afternoon for yet another Herald Inside LI webinar as we explore identity theft, sponsored by AARP Long Island. Joining us today is Donna Harris. She's the public information representative of the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Also joining us is Michael Del Giudice. He is the postal inspector and team leader of the New York Postal Inspection Division. Donna and Michael will discuss how to help protect yourself from fraud and scams, and they will cover identity theft, how to recognize red flags, and how to prevent yourself from becoming the next victim. And of course, we can't get started without our good friend, Bernard Macias. He is the Associate State Director of AARP Long Island. Good afternoon, Bernard.
Good afternoon and greetings, everyone. On behalf of AARP New York, I want to welcome all of you to today's fraud webinar. And it's all part of our two-part series titled Fighting Against Fraud. I am the Associate State Director for AARP on Long Island for Community Outreach and Engagement. I serve close to 500,000 members across Nassau and Suffolk. AARP nationwide, we're 38 million members strong, 2.4 million members right here in New York State. And a little bit more about AARP, we're the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering Americans 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. We work to strengthen communities. We advocate for what matters most to families, and we focus especially on health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. So remember this about AARP, we're all about health, wealth, and self. And today, with fighting against fraud, it's all about your wealth and protecting your wealth, which is why we're doing, again, this two-part series. And we're also offering a number of free in-person shredding events, all sponsored by AARP Long Island. We have our good friends from the U.S. Postal Inspection Service who are going to share with us, more ways on how you can protect yourself against scams and fraud. As you know, knowledge is power, so please pay attention and share what you learned today. We're going to cover identity theft this afternoon, but we're also going to cover elder fraud next Thursday. So please be sure to tune in and register for these events. You also need to register for those free shredding events. We have 3 of them in Nassau, which I will post in the chat. We will send you more information by email. But our first shredding is on April 22nd in Garden City, Saturday, April 22nd. And then we have Saturday, May 20th, in Farmingdale. And we also have Saturday, May 6th in New Hyde Park. But I'm going to share all those shredding events in the chat, and we will also email more information to you. So, Mike, right back to you in the program. We have a lot to cover today.
Yeah, we do, Bernard. Thank you so much for that. I know I always look forward to the shredding events, and I'm sure a lot of other people do. I think we always have huge lines for that too. It's one of those things you really got to pre-register for because it's tough to get into them, but very, very popular. Well, Donna, Michael, I know you have a lot to share with us, and very excited to hear. And I'm sure you can never talk enough about this. I know. So so please take the floor.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I have I have a PowerPoint that I'm going to be sharing with everyone. So let me get to that and just bear with me for one moment. Let me share my screen. I hope you all can hear me.
We can.
Sure, let me set up my slideshow. And I hope you all can see this. I'm going to fix this a little bit so that you can all see it. All right. So we are the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, and our topic today is going to be identity theft. So we like to call it the 411 on identity theft. I say, there's a lot of things about this. I'd like, one, thank you for having us. But the other thing, before we go into our topic, let me tell you a little bit about our agency, the Postal Inspection Service. We're the oldest federal law enforcement agency with our roots going all the way back to August 7, 1775. Postal inspectors protect postal employees, customers, and USPS infrastructure from crimes that impact the US mail. How did they do that, right? By enforcing the laws that intersect with the mail system. We enforce over 200 federal statutes ranging from mail theft to mail fraud, drugs in the mail, bombs in the mail, cybercrime, child exploitation, and many other crimes with a nexus to the US mail. Our agency has 16 divisions, one being in New York, throughout the US and strategic locations abroad. We also operate our own forensic laboratory in Dulles, Virginia. So I can confidently say that over the last 240 plus years, we've come a long way with all of it on a focus of protecting the US mail, our customers and employees. So now let's move on to the topic of identity theft. I hope you can see this. I really like this slide because it's deceptive offers, or as we like to call it, the stranger in your house. Every day, we unwittingly open the door and the window to our world to strangers who in fact could be scammers. While in some cases, the resulting interaction is a positive one, but in many cases, the results can be devastating, especially to older and vulnerable adults. So how does this happen? When you receive a pitch through the US mail, email, text, or even by telephone, many of these interactions are broadly referred to as deceptive offers. The look, the language, and images used are designed to deliberately be misleading. Even though many of these scammers are miles away, they can enter your house through deceptive offers designed to steal your money and your financial DNA. Because really, once they have your information, it's just like your DNA. They find out who you are and they can use it to defraud you. So the stranger in your house can do a lot of damage before the crime comes to light. And this is why we routinely discuss current trends and scams to make you aware of just what is lurking behind the next pitch or offer that seems too good to be true. It's like anything else. You wouldn't open your front door to someone who didn't seem right or who that you didn't know. So don't open the door to your financial DNA to someone you don't know. And so today we're going to talk to you about how to prevent all these things. So our topic today is identity theft, and I'm going to turn this over to Michael Del Giudice, who will talk to you a little more about identity theft.
Thanks,
Michael?
Donna. Thank you. So for those of you who aren't familiar, identity theft, unfortunately, has become a very big problem in the United States and abroad, just because so much information is available on computers. Our information is handed out. We apply for credit cards. We apply for loans. But for those of you who aren't familiar, identity theft is basically the theft and use, which is the fraud of your identity, your personal identifier. So your name, your social security number, your date of birth, your home address, your telephone numbers. So basically, the theft of that information is someone who obtains it. Next slide, please, Donna. And the subsequent fraud. Thanks. Is basically the use of that information. So after they have taken your information, they then use your personal information, your social security number, your date of birth, telephone number to open up accounts, to open up credit cards, to possibly get a mortgage, to buy a home. So that's considered identity fraud. Next slide, Donna.
So I'll talk a little bit about this particular slide. This information comes from the Consumer Sentinel Data Book, just from the FTC, just like AARP Fraud Watch has their own data. We use both AARP and the Consumer Sentinel Data Book, but in 2022, there were 5.2 million reports of frauds. And the top three categories, as you can see, identity theft, imposter scams, and credit bureaus, info furnishers, and report users. 2.4 million fraud reports just on fraud alone was 26% reporting a loss. But the interesting thing about this, that it was $8.8 billion lost. Can you imagine? That is such an astronomical amount of money to lose to fraudsters. And when you look at the things going on in New York, you can see identity theft is the #1 category in New York. For fraud, identity theft, when you think about, I should say fraud, New York came in at 17th state to report fraud per 100,000 of the population. But when it comes to identity theft, New York was the 15th ranked state. So there's a lot of, with $397.8 million lost in total fraud. So that's once again a huge number. So it makes you think that identity theft, number one fraud from Consumer Sentinel, #1 fraud, and it's growing. So it's really important to understand and recognize when you're being, when someone's giving you a pitch relating to something that's a scam only to steal your identity. So who has your information? And Mike, I'll let you talk about this a little bit.
Sure. So we don't really think about it too often, but our information, again, social security number, name, address, date of birth, they're out there, right? With the credit bureaus, so that would be TransUnion, Experian, Equifax. They obviously have all of your information, your credit information. The hospitals, doctors, how many times have you gone to a doctor's office for an appointment or to a hospital and they're asking for, again, not only your insurance card, but your name, address, phone number, emergency contact, social security number, date of birth that you have to fill out on these forms, dentists, your employers, banks, the utility companies, the IRS, the state and local government. Your information is out there, right? Even in car dealerships, when you go to apply for a loan through a car dealership or you're buying a car, they require certain information. So, unfortunately, we've become a digital society where our information is just out there. So, you may not think about it, but it's definitely around. So now, how does identity theft happen, right? There's, as we like to call it, there's no free lunch, right? Like there's the age-old saying that, if it sounds too good to be true, probably is too good to be true, right? Like, so, unfortunately, with your telephone number being out there, with, some of these identity thieves will just buy what we call lead lists of telephone numbers or information, and basically try and call you, call your home, call your cell phone, and try and tell you something. They'll pretend to be from a bank. They'll try to, be from your doctor's office, or they'll be from, they could be from Microsoft or any company where, you may be willing to give information out, the telephone company, maybe the electric company. So again, they'll stop at nothing to try and get just that little bit of information from you, be it your date of birth, your social security number, so that they can then use that, maybe even your bank account number or a credit card number too. So it's not just limited to trying to get your personal identifiers, but also trying to get some sort of information, maybe bank account, like I said, or a credit card number, where they can then use that to take care of their lifestyle, to buy goods, to basically run up debt on your credit. Next slide, please, Donna.
So, yes, this is a video. I'm going to stop the share for one moment because I want to talk to you about, while I set this up again, I want to talk to you about an incident that happened with me about 3 weeks ago. I started getting random phone calls from individuals who said that they, did I call them? Did someone call me from this number? And I said, no, I didn't call you from this number. And they're like, oh, well, if you didn't call from this number, who did? And I said, oh, I didn't call. So they're like, well, if you didn't call, then can you tell me what number are you calling from? I said, well, you already know the number that I'm calling from. So they're like, well, can you give me more information? They wanted to hold a full conversation with me. And it turned out that someone had spoofed my number. They had used my phone number and they were calling around. And my concern was that they were going to use that number to call people and pretend that they were me. So this is just an example.
When I arrived, a woman behind the desk asked me for my social security number. And my generation gives that freely because we were always taught to do that, especially in a safe place like a hospital.
Beverly Tiernan was in the hospital emergency room being treated for injuries resulting from a car accident.
Little did I know that in 2 months I would find out that she was giving my social security number along with many others to people in a bad ring of identity theft.
The number of actual victims that were involved in the scam were actually 332 victims. Those are the ones that inspectors were able to identify 100% and prove the fact that their identity had been compromised.
Beverly Tiernan realized she was a victim when her husband tried to access her bank account.
And they told him that my account had been compromised.
The identity thieves began withdrawing money using her identity through 11 separate accounts they had created.
The dollar loss was basically about $631,000.
From the hundreds of victims, including Beverly.
There's a lot of people that work very hard for their money and do it in an honest way. And it's very hard when it's taken away from you that way.
So, that's part of the problem with all of this. A lot of times it's a long time before you even recognize that you've been a victim of a scam. And Mike, before I start this video, you want to talk a little bit about some other ways that you can be a victim of identity theft?
Sure. So thanks, Donna. And that video kind of illustrates it, right? Like we go to the doctor, they're asking for this information. We're probably not thinking clearly. You know, obviously we may be not feeling well or something. They're asking you to fill this out. You know, paperwork, social security number, date of birth, and, you know, again, we think, oh, it's the doctor's office, my information's safe. But unfortunately, you know, as you can see from the previous video, it's not necessarily safe, right? So when you go to a doctor's office, I mean, you present them with your insurance card. There's really no reason that you need to give them your social security number. You know, so I've had some instances where, you know, I've gone to the doctor's office and they've asked for it, and I say that, you know, you have my insurance card, you have everything you need. If they kind of press it and say, no, we need it, then I'll just give the last 4 digits of my social security number, because you never know. It's an unfortunate circumstance. I mean, you want to be trusting. You think you're a doctor's office, there's a place of trust, but, you know, sometimes there are employees who do, you know, unfortunately bad things, and they'll take your information and then they'll sell it, or, you know, they'll pass it along. So again, as kind of illustrated, you know, here, there's, aside from, you know, doctor's offices, also online. Now we do a lot of online shopping. Maybe for the holidays, you know, nobody wants to go to the stores anymore. They go to Amazon or, you know, eBay or some other place online, or they're looking for the best deals. And, you know, we have a very big problem too, especially during the holiday season when we're doing a lot of shopping, that a lot of these scam websites will pop up. So they're going to offer like the best price on an, you know, the hot ticket item of the season, or it's very difficult to find, and this website miraculously has it. So again, they're looking for your credit card information, for your address, so they can basically just take that, steal your identity, and then use your credit cards or use your information to open up more credit card accounts, or just to spend money to buy items on your credit, and then never pay the bill, so you're left holding the bag. As we said before, a digital age, there a lot of information is out there with the internet, with Facebook, with all these different platforms. Even online shopping, you know, when you put in your shipping address or your payment information, your credit card, your name, your address, your phone number, unfortunately, you know, these hackers have been able to break into those systems and steal information. I mean, I think several years ago, Target had a very big data breach where a lot of information, if you were one of their customers, you know, your information could have been compromised. The government, you know, there's data breaches more recently too. Suffolk County, I'm sure it's seen in the, you know, in the paper that there was a big data breach there, where information was taken. So, you know, unfortunately, because we store a lot of information on computer systems, they're also vulnerable to attacks, and they're able to, you know, your information is out there. But not only, again, as Donna pointed out too, like her cell phone, someone called on the number, asked where she's calling, like we also get text messages, we get emails, where, you know, again, scammers are trying to get that information from you. So one big place, you know, that you want to definitely make sure is, you know, if you get a text that's unknown, from an unknown person, I mean, I can't tell you the number of calls I get on my cell phone or text messages that I get, you know, saying, trying to get information from me, or, you know, oh, by the way, like, you know, your insurance is about to expire. Or another thing would be spoofing telephone numbers, which basically I think what Donna alluded to also is that, you know, you may get a phone call that looks like it's coming from a bank. And, you know, maybe it is your bank. Maybe it's Bank of America or Chase or Capital One or TD Bank or any of the larger banks that you may bank with. They'll call you and say, oh, like, I'm calling from, you know, this bank, or I'm calling from this credit card company. You know, we think there may have been someone was trying to access your account. We're just trying to get your information. Can you please give us this information? And they'll ask for your social security number, your date of birth, you know, anything like that to verify it. But unfortunately, it's not the bank. It's a scammer who's just trying to get this information from you. So, you know, one key thing to remember is if you ever get a phone call, a text, an email from a financial institution that's looking for this information, that they're never going to call you and ask you for this information. If you call them or email them or fill out a form, once they respond to you, then they will try and validate that you are who you say you are. But again, no one's ever going to call you out of the blue asking you for this information. And if you feel that, you know, it is a scam or something, hang up the phone, don't answer that text message, and just call your bank. You know, it's very easy for you to find a number online. If you don't have it on the back of your credit card, there's a phone number. You know, you can call them and ask them, like, hey, I received this phone call. Is there an issue? I'd like to check into it. And, you know, they may not have anything on record, or they may say, yeah, that was us trying to call you. We had an issue. But again, you just never know who you're talking to these days. So email scams, texting scams, those are big scams that are going on. Again, the telephone calls. So one of the ones that we've seen a lot is, and Donna we have a little video to show you on that too, is the Postal Service. You know, you'll get a text message from the United States Postal Service, USPS package is out for delivery or is available for pickup. You know, or we've had an issue sending your package, so, you know, please click this link and you'll get more information about your package. And unfortunately, like, they're asking for information that, you know, is your personal identifying information, and people fall victim to it and they'll fill it out because they think they're expecting a package or something's coming in the mail for them. So, you know, these are more scams. Basically, you know, it's great we have cell phones, it's great we're able to text, it's great we're able to take photos and send them to whomever and have these constant communications, but unfortunately it also opens the door for scammers and for people to fall victim to it. So, Donna, if you want to.
Let me show this video.
A text message from the Postal Service. Wow, I didn't even know they had my cell number.
They don't. And they don't send text messages about unclaimed packages. I'm Andrea Avery, United States Postal Inspector. Text messages claiming to be from the United States Postal Service have been pinging cell phones across the country, asking recipients to claim a package. But it's a scam. These texts are part of an international phishing scheme that's designed to steal personal information from recipients. If you click on that link in the text message, you'll be inviting the scam artist into your life. Once you open the attached page, your personal information will go directly to the scammers. They may steal your identity or bank account details. Your phone or system may also become filled with malware. So don't click the USPS text you just got. It's a scam. Just delete the text immediately. For more information on scams, visit uspis.gov.
A text message from the
So just as that video said, as Mike said, we get those all the time. I get them on my phone. Sometimes, you know, you could be expecting a package from the Postal Service, but, you know, for those of you who've never signed up for it, informed delivery is a good thing to use. It'll give you an idea if you're get what you're getting in the mail and if you're getting a package for that day. So I use informed delivery to have an idea of what's coming that day. Usually it's on point. I certainly don't use anything that comes from the cell phone as far as we have a package and we're trying to deliver to, because as that video said, we don't have your text, we don't have your phone number, so we didn't text you. So Mike?
Right, and just to add on that too, if, you know, going back to it, cell phones nowadays, especially if you get text messages from someone you don't know, from an unknown number, or it looks kind of fishy, just, you can block the number. You know, every phone has the ability to block a number so they can't call you. Same thing with your email too. Like if if the email systems are usually pretty good about catching spam emails or junk emails, but if they're not, and it's something that you don't recognize, just you could block those as well, so you won't receive those anymore. That's an important tool to have. So hopefully after a while, if you keep blocking enough of them, then they'll just stop calling or stop sending them to your email address. Because in general, these scammers, they use the same lists. They get your phone number, they're sharing the list, selling the list. So hopefully, at some point you'll stop getting them. But if you don't, just block them on your phone and email. Donna, next slide, please. So something else we want to talk about that's important. Not sure, check washing. I know a lot of the younger generation may not even know what a check is or how to write a check. But for those of us who kind of grew up with writing checks, there are some bills that you still need to pay. You can't use online bill pay. But check washing is essentially the process where if a thief gets a hold of one of your checks, they're able to use chemicals, maybe in most cases household chemicals, where if you don't use a pen or ink that bleeds through the check, they're able to what we call check washing or clean the check, and then they can fill in whatever amount they want to make it payable to themselves. So one of the important things that you can do to protect yourself is if you are writing a check, make sure that you use some sort of gel pen or marker type pen where the ink will bleed through to the back of the check, so it's not easily cleaned and it can't be altered. Another thing is, if you get a notice from a company where you're late on your bill, but you have sent the check to them, check your bank account, check your statements. A lot of times, we kind of get bills, or we may get bills because we're on paperless statements and we don't really look at bank account statements. A lot of banks nowadays too have the apps you can download to your phone. So what I do essentially too is I'm constantly looking at my bank account. I'm looking to make sure that there's no suspicious activity on them. And then if there is something, or if someone didn't get a check, then you definitely want to call your bank. You want to go into your bank account and let them know that you've been a victim of theft, that someone altered your check. So you can report it to them, and then hopefully you'll get your money back from them. Another thing too, kind of along the lines of check washing and identity theft is when you're doing a lot of these online bill pays, you have to put in your bank account information, you have to put in your routing number. You want to make sure that it's a legitimate website that you're entering this information in. And we've also seen some identity theft scams where someone will get a phone call from again, Microsoft or some computer company saying, oh, we got a notice that your computer's infected. We need to get onto your computer to clean it up. Or, hey, I refunded you some money, but I sent it to the wrong account, or I gave too much, and can you please give me access to your bank account? And unfortunately, people fall victim to that, where they'll actually let the scammer on the other end of the phone and give them access to their computer, give them access to their bank accounts. Again, no legitimate bank or legitimate company is ever going to call you out of the blue and ask you for your bank account information, for your social security number, for any of that information. So the best thing you can do is just hang up the phone. Don't even talk to them. And if you're curious, hey, maybe there is something wrong, again, call your bank directly. When you dial that phone number who you're talking to. You don't know if someone calls you who you're speaking with. Again, if you are a victim maybe of check washing, report it to your bank, report it to the police, report it to the local Postal Inspection Service office. Also, don't keep checks around. If you have an electronic check that you used or a voided check, shred those checks. Don't keep a check in your wallet, or in your purse, because again, if God forbid you lose it or it gets to the wrong hands, and someone now has your bank account number, your check number, checking account number, and they can use that to make checks or to pay bills with your money, with your hard-earned money. And so always check your bank accounts frequently. At least once a month, check your statements. Like I said, I'm always looking at my statements. I still get paper statements. I have the app on my phone. I'm always checking just to make sure that nothing is suspicious. Along those lines too, credit cards. you know, a lot of the credit card companies, they have apps as well for their credit card that you're able to use. So, you know, I suggest that you also sign up for those apps, sign up for alerts. I have, as crazy as it sounds, I think I have my alert set up that if there's more than a $15 charge on my credit card, that I get a text message. And while sometimes I get a slew of them, but, you know, it's definitely worth it. I've several times, I've used my credit card maybe at a CVS or something like that, and I know I haven't used it any other place, and the next thing I know is like I'm getting charges from Indiana or for some gas company, you know, some, gas station in, you know, some other state that I haven't even been to. So, unfortunately, you know, when you use your devices, when you use your credit card, when you put information online, you always want to be cognizant of the websites that you're using, of where you're using it, and, you know, sign up for those alerts. Like, it doesn't cost anything. They're free alerts, and it can save you a lot of headache in the long run.
Right. Not, you know, to add to that, I think that for my situation with my phone number being spoofed, it all happened after my debit card was compromised. So once they had my phone number, they, you know, my debit card information, they were able to try and conduct a lot of different fraudulent activity. Thankfully, though, I was able to catch it, but without it, you know, because I had those alerts. And if I didn't have those, I would have had no idea what was going on. So that it's a really good point that even though it can be annoying to keep getting emails or text messages from the bank saying that your card, a purchase was made, it's a good tool to use if you know that you're not in another, like I wasn't buying anything from a hat company. I didn't make a Google ad. So those were the alerts that I had, that because it just wasn't anything that I normally would purchase.
Right.
Mike?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's very easy to, you know, again, like I said, the websites especially, you know, everybody's looking for the cheapest price. They want the best price on, you know, that hot ticket item, and, you know, that's how we fall victim to it. You know, it happened to me one holiday season. I was looking for a gaming system for my son, and, you know, they said they had all these things in stock, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And I wound up, you know, signing up on the website. But what I did do, which is a great feature of credit card companies as well, is I was kind of a little unsure if this website was legitimate or not. The credit card companies, especially when you're making online purchases, they will let you create another credit card number, basically like an electronic credit card number that's linked to your credit card, but it's not the actual number. And the great thing about it is that you can actually use it specifically for only one website. You can set up, you know, the time that credit card could be used. So it could be used for only this one transaction. It could be valid for this website for a month. It could be valid for this website for a couple of days. And you can easily shut it down when, you know, you're done with it or if there's a problem. So while I did get scammed, I was fortunate that I didn't have to, you know, turn off my credit card or get credit cards reissued because I didn't give them my real credit card number. I just used a, you know, electronic credit card number that's linked to my credit card. So it's definitely something that you consider, especially if you do a lot of online shopping. Definitely a way to protect, you know, your credit card numbers, your identity, so you don't have to, you know, again, worry about that headache. Because unfortunately, a lot of times, a lot of these, you know, think about, we have all these subscription services now, Netflix, maybe Paramount, maybe Disney Plus, you know, Hulu, any online streaming TV service, or even like your regular cell phone bill or your, you know, cable TV provider. Everybody wants to go to this, you know, electronic payment, and if you have a credit card that you're using to make these payments, it's just a pain in the neck if that gets compromised to have to go to all of these different sites and then, you know, these different companies and change that credit card number with a new credit card number because it was compromised. So, you know, again, you know, I urge you to, credit card companies, the banks, they have a lot of these fail safes in there, or these extra security devices. And like I said, I know it's a pain in the neck sometimes, but in the long run, it'll be a lot easier for you to have to deal with should, you know, the unfortunate circumstance happen where your identity is compromised. So moving along, synthetic IDs, this is something that's kind of been, you know, up and coming. And what identity thieves will do is they'll actually, you know, create a person. So they'll take like a legitimate social security number, that, maybe they got, from the dark web, or they've gotten from the, for some of the plates, and then they'll invent a name and a date of birth, but it's actually your social security number that's being used. So they're creating this whole new person, and, using your social security number to open up credit cards, bank accounts, maybe a mortgage, home equity line of credit, anything like that they could use to basically get money. And unfortunately, in the end, that social security number is tied to you. So you're going to see, these accounts on your credit report, that you have no idea about because it's not you, because they, you didn't open it, but they were using your social security number to do that. And you may not get an alert on it depending on how you have things set up, because again, it's just your social security number, but it's not your name or your date of birth or anything like that. So, again, we'll get into how you can help to try and prevent that, or steps that you can take a little bit later on in the slideshow. But, just wanted to mention that synthetic IDs, if you hear the term, it's basically, someone using a piece of legitimate information about a person and then making up the rest of it. Next slide, please, Donna. Okay, so stolen PII. We were talking about your PII is your personally identifiable information. That's your social security number, your date of birth, your address, your phone number, your previous residence, your previous addresses. That's your PII. That's how you could be identified. So again, how is it stolen? We kind of went over a lot of those in the presentation earlier. It could be at a doctor's office. It could be that you used your credit card at a store and someone took it. It could be that someone got your phone number and you gave it willingly because they asked you for the information. You thought it was a bank account. It could be at the gas pump. Unfortunately, there's a lot of what we call skimming devices at gas pumps these days. When you put your credit card in, it's making a copy of the number on your credit card and then trying to match up, that credit card to a specific transaction. One thing I will mention too, also, if you're using a debit card, you go to an ATM machine, be very cautious when you're using a debit card or you're entering your PIN number. Unfortunately, identity thieves, they like to put what we call little cameras on either an ATM or a gas pump, and if you enter your PIN number into the pump, they'll have not only your account number, but also that PIN number, so they can gain access to your bank account, to your debit card. Again, to kind of help prevent that, if you are using a debit card, is just put your hand over the keypad, so that as you're typing in your PIN number, they can't get a picture of it. Next slide, please, Donna. So identity theft is definitely on the rise. Again, the digital age, we use our credit cards everywhere. It's easy to pay for things with credit cards. We do a lot of online shopping. Next slide. So again, looking for fraud and identity theft. As I said earlier, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Another thing you want to do is, look at your statements. Match your credit card receipts, your bank statements, your checks that you've written to the statements that you get. Even if you get electronic statements, like there's fine. There's nothing wrong with getting electronic statements as well, but make sure that you open them up, that you take a look at them, that you make sure that a check hasn't been used, or money hasn't been taken out of your account, or a charge hasn't been made to your account that you're not aware of. These are the biggest things. Like if we don't have any alerts set up, when our credit card is used, or our bank account is used, or a check is cashed, then you're never going to know unless you look at your statements. And if you look at your statements, you could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road until you find out, or if you've written a check, or you're getting a letter from a collections agency because you haven't paid a bill, or your check bounced because you don't have any money in your checking account. So again, always keep an eye on your checking account, on your credit card statements. Look at your bank statements. Make sure that you don't have any extraneous charges on there. And again, check your credit, check your credit, check your credit, right? The 3 credit reporting agencies were allowed to get a free credit report every year. So, there's 3 credit report agencies: Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. you can essentially get 3 free credit reports. So if you want to, you know, every 4 months, you want to check your credit just to make sure there's nothing on there. And you're not only checking your credit for, you know, failure to pay, but you're also trying to see if there's any new accounts that were opened up on your credit, you know, your credit report. Because if you're not aware of it, if someone stole your social security number, stole your identity, stole your date of birth, your, you know, your home address and everything, any identifiers that they can use to open up something in your name, a credit card, a bank account, you know, apply for a mortgage, apply for a loan, they're going to do it. And, you know, the first thing that banks or credit card agencies always run is you use your social security number to check your credit report. So you can go to annualcreditreport.com, or the phone number is listed here as Donna had put it up. And, you know, again, you're allowed 1 free credit report from each of the reporting agencies every year. Next slide, please. So again, you know, if we can't stress enough, always protect your information, right? Protect your social security number, protect your date of birth. Don't carry your social security card around with you, because if you lose your wallet or it gets stolen or your purse gets stolen, you know, and you have your social security card in there, then someone is going to, you know, now have the keys to your credit, the keys to the kingdom, essentially, you know, because they have your social security number. Now they can go and do what they need to do to open up things in your name. So protect that. Any bank statements, any financial statements that you get to, and, you know, one thing about it, and Bernard mentioned it earlier, is shred it. You know, shred those bank statements, shred those credit card statements, shred those any sensitive documents that you may have, loan applications, anything with your date of birth, your name, your social security number on it. I mean, as silly as it sounds, like when I get a magazine and it has my name and address on the label, I take the label off and I shred the label. Like, you want to just shred anything with your name and address on it. Again, as silly as that sounds, you know, you never know, because sometimes things get thrown in the garbage that aren't shred. I mean, you never know if someone comes and it's disgusting or silly as it sound, like someone may come and steal your garbage. You know, someone may be at the garbage dump and, you know, going through stuff. And if they find something on there with your information, or if they find a check that has your bank information on it, you know, they'll steal that. They'll take that. They'll do anything. I mean, there's nothing, you know, nothing is safe, nothing is sacred, as you know, doom and gloomy as that sounds. It's not. I mean, it's, you know, it's very easy for someone to try and get your information, because it costs them nothing. If they get it, then they have a gold mine. But if they don't get it, well, they're no different. They're no different place that they were at prior to not having it. So just shred everything. Shred envelopes, shred your bank statements, shred checks, anything that would have your social security number, any application. Don't just throw it away. Just shred it. It's easy. I mean, you can get shredders very inexpensive these days. And again, AARP, in conjunction with, you know, others, are putting together shred events where you can actually, you know, if you have those old checkbooks or stuff piling up, you know, go to these shred events, register for them, and get rid of that stuff if you don't have a shredder at home. Next slide, please, Bob. So, and, you know, securing your financial data, we kind of talked about that before. Set up alerts. Set up alerts on your, you know, your credit card charges, on your credit card statements, on your bank statements, on your bank withdrawals. You know, again, it's everybody has a cell phone, a smartphone that's essentially a computer in your pocket. You know, get these notifications. It's very helpful. I mean, I've personally, like I said, other than this website, I've caught several times where, you know, someone has tried to charge something on my credit card, and I was able to prevent it before, you know, it got too out of control. So, you know, I got a notification, I think a charge was made, I got a notification, I'm like, oh, this doesn't look, you know, right, and I was able to go into the app or call the credit card company and basically freeze the credit card so that no other charges could be made on it before I had to start filling out all types of paperwork that, hey, it wasn't me, I didn't make these charges. So again, these alerts, and pay attention to them. They're very helpful. It definitely, you know, saves time in the long run of just being notified. Slide, please, Donna. So I guess ensure your mail delivery. I mean, Donna had talked about this before, and she can add on if she wants, but, you know, the Postal Service has a form delivery, which is very helpful, so you know what mail is coming if you're getting checks. or statements, you could see the mail that you should be getting. And if you don't get it, then, there's an issue. You can report it to the local Postal Inspection Service office, and we can look into it. But Donna, is there anything you wanted to add on that?
No, that's right. Use informed delivery. I use it every day. It's generally accurate. There are days when it might be a day where you won't get something that said you were going to receive it. But if a couple of days have gone by and you haven't received the item that's been listed on informed delivery, it's really important that you get in touch with the Postal Inspection Service, because that's a clue that something has arrived. So sign up for it, USPS.com, informed delivery. It's a good tool to use, and it's free.
Right. So again, on the lines of security, strong passwords, right? Any of these websites that you go to, that you sign up for, be it, Amazon, eBay, or any other Google, even your email accounts, like if you have a Gmail account or a Yahoo account or whatever email service provider that you use, make sure that you're using strong passwords. And what I mean by strong passwords is, like, don't use your first name, don't use your last name, don't use your birthday, don't use anything that someone could figure out, right? So a strong password, basically, the longer you can make it, the better. I mean, 16 characters long is a good rule of thumb. It makes it very difficult to break. But you want to use a series of, numbers, letters, uppercase, lowercase, special symbols, maybe an exclamation point, maybe a % sign. Those are special characters. Anything, out of the ordinary makes it much easier for you to protect your information, but also harder for someone who's trying to get your information to, break into your accounts. Email accounts and cell phones seem to be our lifeline right now. Anytime you're sending out, like, checks and balances, or, hey, if I forgot my password, like, here's my email account, send me a password at this for whatever website you sign up for, or here's my cell phone number, send me a code, so that, a verification code. So companies are trying to make it more difficult, like email service providers, banks, credit card companies, that, when you're signing into the account, you need what we call a two-step verification. I highly suggest that you sign up for that two-step verification. It makes it, especially with your financial accounts, makes it much more difficult for, an identity thief to get into those accounts. So with the two-step verification is, as I said before, you have a password that you'll log into the account, but then they'll send you a code to either your email or your cell phone that you have to enter in before the website will allow you access for the bank or the credit card. It makes it much more difficult for someone to get into your financial accounts if you set up that two-factor authentication, as well as having strong passwords. The other thing I suggest too is, don't use the same password for every account that you have, because, passwords are very difficult to remember as it is. Cell phones nowadays, especially the iPhone, it has a feature on it where it actually create strong passwords for you, but also remember your passwords so you can log in easily to the website. Take advantage of that. Write something down, your passwords, make them something that you can remember, but also something that's not easy to figure out, like, my dog is Spot, or something like that, or Florida is my favorite place. But you want to make it difficult, because if you start making things too easy or very simple words, then someone's going to be able to get into your account. Next slide, please, Don. So again, along the lines of that, protect your online identity. If you're on these social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, any of these sites, make sure that you secure your account so it's not open to the world. There are security features in there where you can limit it to either only your friends or family. So I suggest that you go into those settings and you lock it down so it's not open. Also, again, scammers, they're going to research you online. Facebook is the first place that everybody's going to look, because almost everyone has a Facebook account. So don't leave it open to the public. Also, be careful in what you post. If you're posting, too much information out there about, like, a trip that you're taking, that you're not going to be home, that it's so-and-so's birthday, that it's your birthday, that you went here, that you live in this town, or this is your address, this is your phone number, you don't want that getting out there, because scammers will go and try and research the information, and whatever they can find on you, they're going to use that to, against you, or at least to try and validate who they are saying they are, right? If they're calling from a bank or a financial institution. So make sure your online presence, you lock that down, and you don't, put a lot of information out there, a lot of personal information out there for the world to see, because scammers will use it and they have used it in the past. Again, if you're going away.
That's true. And that moves on. I want to add one thing that moves on to like the idea when you're getting on Facebook friend request, check to make sure that person isn't already your friend. If they are, then that's somebody trying to get you to accept a friend request on a fake account. So those are all things to be aware of, because accounts get hacked quite often, especially on these social sites.
Right. Next slide, Donna.
Okay.
Okay, so really quick, we were talking about, and this is a credit freeze. It talks about the credit reporting agencies. This actually is free. What you can do is you can freeze your credit for a year. And basically what that means is that you lock your credit down, you put a password on it or a PIN number, and until you enter that PIN number, no one will be able to open up a credit account, a bank account, a credit card, or anything like that in your name. So it does not affect your credit. It's free. All of the 3 credit reporting agencies will do it. Next slide, please, Donna. Where essentially, again, like I said, you just put a freeze on it, on your credit. They can't do it. You can also set up fraud alerts with the credit reporting companies. And basically, if you are concerned that you might have an identity theft, they will alert you if someone is trying to access your credit or someone's trying to open up your credit account. Again, it's free. It lasts for a year. You can use that in conjunction with the credit freeze. They also have an enhanced credit freeze and fraud alert system. So basically, if you were a victim of identity theft and you get a police report, or you go to the Federal Trade Commission and file an identity theft complaint with them, they will actually freeze your credit for 7 years, and also remove you from unsolicited credit and insurance offers for 5 years. Now again, freezing your credit, it's not going to affect it. All it's doing is it's not open for you to go get a credit card account or a bank account like on a whim. Like, it's very easy to contact the credit reporting agencies and say, hey, I'm going to open it from this this time frame because I want to get a credit card, or I want to get a loan or something like that. So you control it. You control that freeze. You can take it off or put it on at will. I've done it for my credit because I've been a victim of identity theft. Someone tried to open up a bank account in my name, so I just put a credit freeze on mine, so no one will be able to open any accounts unless I lift that freeze. Even if banks are trying to run your credit, they won't be able to because there's a freeze on it. They'll see that there's a freeze on your credit, and they'll ask you, if someone's going into a bank account, bank to try and open up an account on a bank account in your name or a credit card in your name, they'll that's a big red flag if you can't remove that freeze, and they won't do it. They'll just kind of move on and cancel the request. Next slide, please, Donna. The credit monitoring service, there are credit monitoring services that are out there. You don't need to sign up for one. You could do it through the credit reporting agencies. LifeLock is a big one, or credit cards have them. Monitoring services they do too. Are they worth it? Again, that's personal opinion. It's really up to you. You are guaranteed 3 free credit reports a year, but in my opinion, I use one of these services through one of my credit cards. I think it's great because again, very similar to someone trying to make a charge on my bank account or my credit card. I get a notification anytime there's an inquiry into my credit. If something has changed on my credit history, on my credit report, to me, it's just a time saver because I want to know instantly if something's going on. I don't want to wait, 3 months or 4 months to be able to check my credit to see if anything was there. Like, I'm just the type of person where I want to know right away so I can take care of it right away and I don't have to deal with an issue down the road. So again, it's personal preference. If you're, if you have your credit frozen and, there's no way somebody could open up an account in your name, then, maybe it's not for you. But maybe you want it. So it is a benefit in my opinion, but it's not necessary. It's really a personal preference. Next slide, please. Donna.
So, you know, what we really want, you know, you to know is that it's important that you act fast. So this next slide, if you spot ID theft, act fast. Make sure you shut down your credit accounts. You call your banks. Mike, do you want to add anything here? Because we want to get a question or two in, so we're going to move through
No,
the
that's fine.
slides.
Yeah, go ahead. No problem.
So we just want to, you know, and we want to let you know for help and information, you can go through to identitytheft.gov. That's what the site looks like. It's an FTC site, the identity theft site. You can put in information if you feel you've been a victim. You fill out some forms, and it helps because it'll give you next steps on what it is that you need to do for identity theft. Some documents to retain, you know, whatever, if you got a canceled check, if you get checks, your credit card statements, your bank receipts, anything that conversations you've had with the scammers, you need to save that because that all helps in our investigations. And moving to the next point, you got to report it. It's important. If you don't let us know, we can't investigate. So it's important to report it. You can report it to the inspection service at 877-876-2455, but you can also report it to the Federal Trade Commission if you believe you've been a victim of identity theft. And I want to turn it over now to back to Bernard so he can talk to you a little bit about AARP and the Fraud Watch Network. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you so much, Donna and Michael. Do you hear me? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. No, thank you so much for this very important presentation. You know, I hear from so many people that are recent victims. It's so disruptive. It's so violating. It's hurtful. It's life-changing to be a victim. But you can learn so much here today on how to protect yourself and your loved ones. I think on the credit report, Michael, you talked about the freezing of the credit report. You know, if you have grandchildren and, you know, adult children out there, but, you know, grandchildren who are already, you know, in college, I suggest even, right, Donna, Michael, you should counsel, because they all have, you know, they have their own identity, and they should also consider freezing their credit. If they're not going to use their credit, they should consider freezing their credit as well, because they can be victims. And so, you know, AARP has a lot of resources. We have our Fraud Watch Network, where you can go online, learn more. You can sign up for fraud alerts. What's great about the AARP Fraud Watch Network is we have volunteers that are trained to receive your complaint or your recent fraud. And what they'll do is that they will note it and create a tracking map of fraud that's near you, that's happening in your area. But with your help, they can also warn other members out there because there's so much new fraud out there. There's so much new fraud out there, and it's constantly happening. So we want to make sure that we protect everyone. And another way that you can also protect yourself is through this wonderful series of webinars. But we have, and I did post in the chat, and I believe that Herald will send you a reminder of all of the locations that you can shred with us for free on Long Island from April to June. We have 7 free shredding events. So please join us, register in advance so that you can be sure that you have a place there for shredding. I want to thank our presenters, great presentations. And I want to thank the Herald Long Island team for your partnership. You can also connect with AARP Long Island at aarp.org/local to learn a lot more on classes and wellness programs. We have a number of walk with a doc programs coming up this spring. We have more in-person events, volunteer opportunities. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/AARP Long Island. And so please, we have so many great ways for you to learn more, to protect yourself. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bernard, and fantastic. So much information there. Like, really, I mean, you know, we could probably even go a second hour on that. And but thank you so much, Donna and Michael, for all that. You know, it's actually kind of funny. While we were doing the webinar, I actually got a text telling me that an order shipped and that my account's been debited $511.99, and obviously scam trying to get me to to pull information, get information from me. But it just shows you just how prolific all that is and just how common, those types of scams especially are out there. So, but thank you for all that great information. If this webinar ended too soon for you, don't fret, because we're back next week. It's Thursday, April 20th at noon, same day of the week, same time. We're going to offer part 2 of our webinar series with AARP Long Island. We're going to have Donna and Michael back with us as well. There we're going to talk about elder abuse, covering the common scams that target the over 50 community. So thank you so much. Don't forget about our shredding events. So you're going to receive a thank you note within the next 24 hours where you'll get that information. You'll get the information about the next webinar, but also some more information about the shredding events, because there's a few of them this time, and they're great. Like I said, you don't want to miss them. Make sure you sign up for one of them. For more information or questions about Herald Inside LI webinars, you can also email us at insideli@liherald.com. So that's inside LI, like Long Island, at LI, like Long Island, herald.com. I'm Michael Hinman. Thank you again, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.